y'all, it's Voluptuously Skinny, and I am here with my post-op week 162 update. Yes, it has been a minute. It has been 4 to 5 weeks since I've made an actual update, and a lot of stuff and some major stuff has gone on, so I'll fill you in on that in just a moment. But as for this week, my weight is right at, I'll give you today's weight, which is actually one day off from my actual weigh-in date. And so today's weight was 151.2. And let me back up and start with my beginning stats. So I had VSG, a vertical sleeve gastrectomy, on September 16th of 2015. So I am just over 3 years and a month out. At that time, or before I started, I was 370 pounds at my highest weighed amount, if that makes any sense. I always think I was much heavier, but that was when I finally weighed. And at the time of surgery, I was 329.6 or 330. And then, like I said, now I'm 151.2. And so I have gone down approximately about 225 pounds. And I have go between about 148 to 153, but my goal maintenance is between 150 and 155 right now, because I picked up muscle weight, which was wonderful. In fact, I went to the nutritionist probably about 4 weeks ago, and she measured my body fat percentage, and I had gained another pound of muscle, and my body fat percentage at that time was like 15.5%. Yeah, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. But it's always so weird, because when I look at myself in the mirror, I still see all this skin, and I see, I still look heavy. Not really heavy, but I still look like there's parts of me that I still need to work on. But I know with a body fat percentage that low that I don't need to work on anything else. So, no, I'm not trying to lose any weight, just trying to maintain. So I am getting over a cold this week, and so hopefully I don't sound too nasally. I tried to put on my aftershocks so that you could hear me better. So hopefully you'll be able to hear me clearly, kind of like a microphone. Excuse me. So anyway, my protein has been okay. Well, my protein this week was probably a little down. I had picked up on my protein quite a bit, but this week, since I came down with something, it was kind of hard for me to eat for a couple days. I still got, some calories in, but it was still hard for me to eat a lot of different stuff. So my protein is down over the last couple days, but for the most part, on average, it's fine. And I don't have the specific numbers because I didn't look before I started videoing. So anyway, if you're interested, you can go to MyFitnessPal and friend me. I am Voluptuously Skinny on there, and you can friend me, and I will accept your friend request, and my diary is public. Don't always like it to be public, because I am not perfect by any means, and so I don't want people to think that they can eat the same way I do and still maintain their weight or lose weight or whatever it is, because I am up and down sometimes with my eating. So I had given up junk food for a while, and now I'm kind of go back and forth with it, because I'm trying to think. I don't think I've done a video since I did the Q race. So let me start with that, kind of backtrack and let y'all know where I am as far as like the junk food and all of that stuff. Okay, so at the end of September, or 2 weeks prior to the end of September, I think right around the time of my anniversary, just a couple days after I decided I was giving up junk food and all of that stuff. Well, I went and I ran a race, and I got really dehydrated and really lethargic. Ended up finishing the race way slower than what I normally finish it. In fact, I had to stop and walk a lot, which is definitely not like me at all. So I had to stop and walk for a bit, and by the time I finished that race, I was probably finishing about 22 minutes later than what I would typically finish a half marathon. So by the time I finished, I was nauseous. I felt horrible, and just very lethargic, very just sick. And so I went in. My friends took me into the building, that the race building, or the run building, which is Fleet Feet. They took me inside and they started trying to cool me off because my heart rate wouldn't go down. That was one of the things that I noticed when I would walk, trying to get my heart rate to go down so I could see if I could feel better. My heart rate would stay up to about 145. And typically my heart rate drops pretty quickly. And I recover pretty well, but it just would not come down. And so they ended up putting ice all over me and trying to cool me down. My legs ended up starting to cramp up, and they ended up calling IMSA. I was able to get fluids and I felt better. But after that race, I was pretty, like, I just needed to know. I went to my called my nutritionist, and I said, hey, I need to come in because I've gotten sick on this race, and it was a half marathon, and I know it was hot, and I thought I was hydrated pretty well. I was only drinking the electrolytes for the most part, and I still just didn't do well. And so I wanted to make sure that I was fueling appropriately. So that's when I ended up having my body fat percentage measured and everything. And she told me at that time that she was concerned because there were 3 days out of the week that I was running a pretty good maximum, not full on race pace, but I was challenging myself. And on those 3 days, I ran with Black Girls Run in the morning, and then I ran with Fleet Feet in the afternoon. Or on 2 of the days anyway, I ran with Fleet Feet. On the second day, on one of the days, I did speed training. So I ran with Black Girls Run on that day on Tuesdays, and then in the afternoon I would go and do speed work. So because my goal is to do the Boston Marathon, and I have to increase my speed, and my goal is to finish in like 3:30, 3:45 in order to be able to qualify and actually not just qualify, but actually register and run the race, be accepted to run the race. So I ended up, she told me at that point that she was concerned that not so much with the fueling as she was with my heart. And I left there that afternoon pretty shaken up, kind of scared. And I was supposed to go on a run that afternoon, and I decided, no, I'm not doing any more of the evening runs. That I felt like I needed to be at the runs for Black Girl Run. And when I could, I would go like on Thursdays and Saturdays, I would run with Fleet Feet. So anyway, I decided I've got to back up some, because if she's concerned, I trust what my nutritionist is telling me. And she's never steered me wrong. So anyway, I did that for about 2 weeks. And I also thought that one of the reasons that I was so lethargic at that run and not doing so well is because I had cut out all junk food at that time. I wasn't going to buy any candy, any chips, any popcorn, nothing. And so my eating was different. So I decided that was just too drastic. I wasn't going to do that anymore. That I would eat the way I was eating because it's not in excess. There are times where I pick those up and get those carbs, and not necessarily even carbs, but just calories. I just needed the calories. So I would eat those things. So the no junk at all, I scratched that, period. That's not for me. That's not for the activity that I do. That's just not what I'm going to do. So anyway, so I scratched all those extra runs, well, at least two extra runs, and was just doing the one time a day. So anyway, ended up the next race I ran was a half marathon, which was the Susan G. Komen. Actually, I did a 5K, which I did great at, and then ended up doing the Susan G. Komen half. And the Susan G. Komen half, I did great. I felt great, felt good, felt like I was back on track with everything. So 2 weeks after the Susan G. Komen, I had another half to do. And when I did that half, I actually finished in first place. But by the time I finished, unlike the other half where I felt sick, probably about mile 8 or 9, I could tell something wasn't right. With this run, I did well the whole time. Perfectly fine. Now, the night before, I had been complaining my back was hurting, and every time I, try to take a deep breath or have a sudden point where I'd take a deep breath, I would get this shooting pain down my back. Didn't think anything of it really, was just thinking I need to go to the chiropractor. So, excuse me, sorry. So, ran that race in Branson. We were in Branson, Missouri, and finished first. And it wasn't a PR, but I finished in great time. The hills were amazing. The hills were alive in that race, so I did work for that win. But as soon as I finished, I felt nauseous, very nauseous and dizzy. And I immediately, the nutritionist had told me, Connie had said, if you feel that way again, immediately go to the urgent care and get fluids. Just get fluids. Don't wait for anybody to call. Just go. So in Branson, they actually had paramedics on site right at the end of the right at the finish line. And so I immediately, the paramedics came over and they asked me if I wanted fluids. And so I just immediately said, yes, please. And same thing with that one. I had been, I drank it every, water stop. I ate what I was supposed to eat all during the race. In fact, probably a little bit more. And because I wanted to make sure that I stayed hydrated and I stayed fueled appropriately. So I was just dry heaving. And I ended up, they gave me some Phenagrin to combat the nausea, and I ended up getting a liter of fluid. Afterwards, I felt pretty good. I felt decent. I remember feeling just a slight little cramp in my stomach, and I was thinking it was from all of the dry heaving. So walked away, talking to friends, got some snacks, and got my time from the race. I saw that the award ceremony was supposed to start at 9:30, so I was sitting around and waiting for the award ceremony, and a friend and I were talking about the route, and then all of a sudden that little cramp came back and in my stomach area, and then it started radiating up my chest, and I immediately couldn't speak for a second. And so it cut my whatever I was saying off. And I was like, man, it's like my chest hurts. So my friend, I tried to continue talking to her, but I couldn't get it out. My chest was just really hurting. And so then it started eating up my kind of my jaw and my neck area and on through my shoulder. And I didn't want to think. I think I was in a little denial. Like, I don't want to think this is a heart attack. And I ended up, Dion was sitting beside me, and I ended up leaning over on him and was just holding my chest and, just trying to get it together, like trying to wait for it to subside, and it wouldn't subside. And Dion says, Mom, this may be a heart attack. You need to come on over to the paramedics. And my friend, she says, no, don't speak that up. In Jesus' name, we're not going to call that out. So I sat there for a second, and he said, please, Mom. He says, I know you might be embarrassed because he knows everybody's eyes are on you when you're at these races and you're having to be escorted out and all that. So he said, I know you may be embarrassed, but just please, let's go over here to the paramedics. And I said, yeah, let's go over. I said, I'll get them to check my blood pressure or something, but I'll just at least walk over here. And so the race director, Jennifer, she saw me and she says, hey, are you going back to paramedics? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay, are you okay? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm just feeling a little chest pain. And she said, well, yeah, please go on over to the paramedics, because she could kind of tell something was going on. So went over to the paramedics and they said that they took my blood pressure, checked my heart rate, and I think my heart rate was like still 89, which it should have been way lower than that. And so it was 89, and they immediately said, well, we've treated you as much as we can treat here, and since you're complaining of chest pains, we really need to take you to the ER. Are you willing to go? And I said, yeah, I'm willing to go. So I went. The hospital was probably like 3 or 5 minutes away. Got there, they immediately checked me in because I was complaining of chest pains, and if you complain of chest pains and you're in in an ambulance, you get seen right away. So that's good information to know and good information to share to people, so that they don't have to wait, especially if they have a life-threatening issue going on. So get there to the ER, and the doctor says, if you are having a heart episode, because my chest was feeling better by then, but my neck and my shoulder were still hurting, which we all know are classic signs of heart attack. But for most people and men, it's on the left side. Mine was all on my right. So he said, if you have had an issue with your heart or a heart attack or something like that, then it won't show up for a few hours. And because it'll get in your bloodstream and the troponin levels will go up or what have you. He said, so we're going to get a base blood lab work, and then we'll take it in a few more hours. And he said, you're probably just dehydrated, and once you get more fluids, you'll be fine and you'll be on your way tonight. And I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm probably still dehydrated, probably still needed a little bit more fluids. So about an hour later, he comes back and he's looking at me and he sits down and he says, something's happened. He said, your troponin levels are already way above normal, and which normal I think was 0.04, and mine were at that time 0.11, I think. And so he said, which indicates there's already been something going on with your heart. It could be from the race and just overexertion. It could be you might have a blood clot that has loosened up. It could be that you have a blockage in your heart. But we need to see what's going on, so you're not going anywhere. You're going to have to stay in the hospital. So then I'm like, what in the world? I look over at Dion, and Dion's like, Ma, don't get upset. Don't get nervous. Don't get negative is what he told me. And I said, okay. I was like, but what in the world is going on? So anyway, they ended up checking me in the hospital, and I actually had a roommate, Sue, who she checked in just right after me, who also had a heart attack. And I found out later, was transported into that hospital because they were saying it was one of the best cardiac hospitals. So I'm like, God just kind of put everything in place this time around, for this to occur, for me to be in a really good spot. So they never did confirm initially a heart attack. But then I guess it was that Saturday night. No, it was a Sunday. So Sunday going into Monday, that Monday morning I was supposed to have a cardiac catheter done. But prior to that happening, about midnight, I was awakened by all these nurses in my room, all these people over me, like just doing all this intervention, and my back at that time was hurting like it was a 10, 11, 12. It just was horrible pain. And my heart rate, I guess, had dropped down, and then there was some funny things going on with my heart rate monitor. So I ended up, when they were trying to treat me, I try to be that patient, that understanding patient, that patient that is cooperative, And so there was a lot of things that they were doing that were causing me pain, and they couldn't give me any more pain medication because my heart rate had dipped so low. It had dipped like down in 30s or something, and I still to this day don't know exactly what other things my heart was doing that caused them to all rush in like that. They couldn't get an IV. They were blowing veins, and so they asked me how to, if I'm ever hospitalized, how do they normally get a vein? And I told them an ultrasound tech usually comes up and does it. So the ultrasound tech came up, and initially he just started. I didn't even realize because I was kind of in and out that he was there yet until he started actually poking me in my arm, and pain started shooting down my hand, and it was tingling and burning. And so I heard one of the nurses say, "You're hitting a nerve. You need to pull out," because he just kept on going, just kept on going. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So by now, I'm like really getting worked up. So then he asked me, where do they normally find it? I told him where they normally find it. I said it's a deep vein, but usually when they get it up on the top of my arm right here, they they never have to change anything else out. And so he just refused to try it. He said, I'm not going to try that. We won't find it there. So he goes up under my arm, up under here. Now, I got all this skin on top of that. So he goes up under here to find a vein. Finally finds one, but when I tell y'all, it was so painful. It was so painful. So by the time he finished that, I set up and I was just adamant nobody else could touch me. I didn't want anybody else to touch me. I literally started panicking because I thought they were going to kill me, because the words that they were saying and the things that they were saying and the medicine that they were trying to give me to help me with my back pain, and then they were saying, we needed to give, the doctor had ordered a nitroglycerin patch, and I just was like, no, they were saying, chest pain is a 10, but it wasn't my chest pain, it was my back pain. But with women, even when they have back pain of 10, they kind of refer that to as kind of a referred pain. So I was just thinking, these people are going to kill me. And so I ended up sitting up saying, no, you can't touch me. Nobody touch me. Leave me alone. I don't want y'all to do anything else. No more interaction with me. Nothing. Whatever happened, they're going to kill me. And so I ended up calling my sister, and I was crying hysterically, and I was just scared. I was truly, honestly scared. And I kept telling her something's going to happen to me, because I was in Branson, Missouri. I wasn't even at home. Dion was up there with me, but Dion ended up, they took him back to the hotel because the race director, Jennifer, the hotel said that they were going to pay for the rest of the stay as long as we needed it. So Dion just went and stayed at the hotel, which I was thankful that he didn't have to witness any of that. So anyway, I kept telling my sister, I said, they're going to, kill me. There's something going to happen to me, and nobody's up here with me. And then my son is up here, and he's going to be up here by himself. And so we ended up calling, the nurse came back in, and my sister's a nurse, so she was asking the nurse what was going on, what were they doing, and just, basically they were telling each other what was going on. So my sister finally says, Kanita, they probably haven't told you, and I'm not trying to scare you, but you need to let them do what they're doing, because you have had a heart attack, and what they're thinking is that it's getting worse. And she was so calm, and she said, what they're doing is proper protocol. It's exactly what we would do. It's exactly what we would do if we were um, taking care of a cardiac patient as well. She said, but you have had a heart attack, and you need to let them do the rest of the procedures. You need to let them do the cardiac catheterization. You need to let them find out what's wrong. And by the time, I got off the phone with her, I was like, okay. But I was still so upset. And it got to the point where I was, like, my blood pressure started going up, because that was the other thing. My blood pressure was dropping so low. And my blood pressure just, I could see the monitor 110 over something, 120 over something, 130 over something, 140 over something. So the nurse had told my sister, well, I'm going to go get her something to calm her down, because now I can see that her blood pressure is now skyrocketing. because I was having a panic attack. I literally thought I was going to die. In fact, at one point, my breathing, my nose literally just closed completely up. I could not breathe through my nose. And they were trying to give me oxygen. At one point, my nose was burning. And so they were trying to give me oxygen. Um, and I couldn't breathe anything through my nose. My nose had completely closed up, and so then I was trying to breathe through my mouth, but my because I was panicking so bad that my chest started closing up, and it felt like I couldn't even get breath down, past this amount. And so I felt like I was dying, y'all. I just literally felt like I was dying. And I remember blowing through my nose, blowing through it, and sorry, but snot going everywhere. And because all I could do was think, I am trying to live, I'm trying to breathe. I can't breathe through my nose, I can't breathe through my mouth. And so I just need to clear as much as I can out of my nose so I can try to get some air up somewhere. But it was a pure mess. I mean, I had never, I don't think, had a panic attack that bad where it was just like everything closed up. So anyway, y'all, I know I'm taking too long, but I ended up having a cardiac cath the next day. They did not find any blockages. They did say that it was a mild heart attack with minimal. My primary care said that they said it was minimal damage to my heart, and that it was caused from a supply and demand issue, that I didn't get enough. My heart didn't have getting enough oxygen, and so did not it didn't like it, basically, is what it was. And they told me that if anybody was going to have a heart attack, that it was the best type of heart attack. If you're going to have a heart attack, it's the best type of heart attack to have. So it's what they told me. So yeah, y'all, I had a heart attack. Yeah, a heart attack. So now I've just been resting. I'm still running because they did tell me that I could continue to run. My mileage has been cut down. My primary care physician has cut it down to 25 miles. And so I'm trying to stay as close to that as I can. This week I'm doing a little better. Last week I did go over. Um, I think I did 34 or 37 miles or something like that. And one of the reasons is because when I went to homecoming, I ended up going down this trail and had run so far, and I was going to do a complete loop. Well, when I got almost finished with the loop, the trail was blocked off. And so I couldn't do anything but turn around and go back. If I had been more familiar with the area, with that trail area, I probably would have just run through the barriers. But I wasn't. I was out of town and running by myself, and I did not want to risk that. So I had to turn around and run back the way I came, which doubled my mileage that morning. So anyway, I ended up going over the miles. Um, but I know that there'll be a couple of times where I will go over a little bit, but not in excess. Because what I wanted to do was do 50 miles a week. And she told me no, about 25 for now. And then we'll slowly increase that. So, but my season will be over here in another month and a half or so, because I then have my plastics surgery, the brachioplasty and the abdominoplasty. So, then I'll be resting for 8 full weeks. My streak will be over for a while, and I won't be doing any running, at least for 8 weeks. So, y'all, that's where I've been. That's what happened. That's why I've been MIA. Just haven't been feeling well. I do have a clothing haul that I want to do. And because I did go shopping at my favorite store, NBC, and my other favorite store, Ross. And then I got some other little things from homecoming that I'd like to share with you guys. So I will share that. But this one has gone on so long, and you're probably going to have to pause it and come back to it. But whatever you guys have to do. And so thank you all for your support. Thank you for your prayers. I had so many people reach out to me, and I felt truly, truly blessed. And there's even something else that happened during that time. And so I don't even know how much of that I can talk about, but I may share that with you too in a little while. Just don't know when, but it's something that's exciting. It's different. Um, what else was I gonna say? I think that's about it. I've been going on 30 minutes. So anyway, y'all, I love y'all. Thank y'all so much. Keep praying for me. Keep praying for my son. I'm gonna keep praying for you guys as well. I love y'all. Peace out, babies. Mwah.